So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Should you buy the iPhone XS in 2022? That is the aim of today's video. Let's take a look at the price to begin this thing. Yeah, I'm looking at eBay because this is kind of like the used marketplace. You can't buy these new anymore. Maybe somebody has a new, but then you're gonna overpay for it. 300 bucks. I seen a couple under 300 bucks. Man, I paid over $1,000 for this phone when it came out just a few years ago. So you're basically getting this for nothing compared to what it costs new. And what do you get for that cash if you're looking to pick up one of these used? We're going to begin by talking about the body. The rounded edges here, unlike the squared setup for the iPhone 12 as well as the iPhone 13 series that came after this one and the 11 Pro line of phones. The back is also a glass, so it definitely can crack if you drop it. It doesn't have that matte texture, so you'll see right here in the video, it does pick up the fingerprints. But one thing I really love about the iPhone XS is pretty much its ergonomics. This phone right here only weighs in at 177 grams, so it's not the lightest in the world, but it's hard to describe how good this phone feels in the hand. It literally just melts into your palm right here. It's very comfortable to hold this device right here. And it just overall at the 5.8 inch size, I think it's actually pretty large, but not super large that it's gonna be, you know, very big and cumbersome to hold. So this is probably one of the best sizes for a one-handed usable. I'm not saying this is the most compact, but you know, it's a little bit compact compared to some of the current iPhones out there. You'll see the camera lens right there does stick off the body a bit, but overall I would say the only thing that really looks kind of old here is the back. You just think it's an iPhone 10, but that's not a problem because the iPhone 10 was a gorgeous device. Overall, I mean, under 300 bucks. I remember years ago, under 300 bucks would net you like an iPhone SE or something like an iPhone 6. So this thing is amazing compared to that. So next up, let's talk about the display. And I'll begin by just talking about the only con. It only hits 625 nits. I say only like that's not bright. Indoors, that's extremely bright. But outdoors, you know, you can see it, but it's not going to be as good as some of the newer phones out there. But it's about as bright as something like an iPhone 12 or even an iPhone 11, something like that. So definitely bright enough, but it is OLED, so you do get a very nice display here, very good contrast, and it is 60 Hertz, but iOS still runs very smooth on this display. So compared to a lot of other 60 Hertz phones, the animations are very smooth, and the phone still feels very good. So the A12 for everyday basic task, I would say, is still quite strong. It doesn't really choke or anything like that on the day-to-day. So, and I am running this on the latest 15.2.1 as of the recording of this video. So when I talk about how smooth it feels, I'm talking about it on the current software that we do have right here. You can even run your focus mode. You can even run the newest iOS features on here. So very good overall, I would say, performance for, you know, the age of this device. This just shows why, you know, picking up an iPhone is probably a good idea for the long term. And this is only rocking the A12 Bionic chipset with 2.49 gigahertz and 4 gigabytes of RAM. It does warm up quite a bit when playing games compared to some of the newer phones, but it could still handle them. That's the good thing. And it still says iPhone. That actually makes it look a little bit older. They stopped putting iPhone on the current phones. They just have the Apple logo because everyone basically knows it's an iPhone at this point. And discussing the battery life for this device. Now, for me, I kept this thing, I was using it for about 6 months to 8 months on this device, so I never really dropped the capacity. But the battery life on this phone has always been about a day for me. And testing it out right now, I'm finding it draining at similar, and right now it's draining at around a similar time. Again, I am testing on 100% capacity, so if you do have, you know, a phone that has less than that, this could be pretty bad. You might have to be charging in the middle of the day if you have, you know, less than ideal capacity on the battery. So that might be one of the first things you have to replace if you do pick up one of these on the used market. Storage capacity for the iPhone XS is actually pretty good. This was the iPhone XS where they brought the 512 gigabyte option. So if we go back over here to eBay and you type in 512, there is a capacity that can reach half a terabyte. So this is when storage started getting very big on the iPhone. So you can even find these with a ton of storage, and they do tend to go up in price and then it becomes less of a deal here. So I would probably stick to something like 256 gig if you want to get it on a low price right now for the iPhone XS. We're going to check out my last video and we're going to look at the notch in 2022 and audio. So you can see when you pinch in, the notch does definitely get in the way a little bit.
Let's begin by talking about where the prices currently stand for the
but it's a little bit more shallow than the current notch. So some people prefer this, even though it's wider. It's a little, the newer one's kind of like this and a little bit deeper down. But talking about the audio,
11 Pro, you can get this thing now depending on where you look. I've seen it as low as 3.
it's good. It's a stereo setup, but nowadays the newer iPhone got even louder, a little bit more bassy. So this is not your best out there.
50. I'm talking about eBay. I'm talking about used marketplaces. People are getting rid of them. Sometimes I use Swappa, but they can go all the way up to.
But you'll see the bottom speaker is still the louder one, but it does come out the top as well. Audio will be fine if you decide to pick this up. Nothing too spectacular, but it'll be fine. What about the cameras for the iPhone XS? This does have a dual 12 megapixel iSight setup, and this is when Apple started really making the camera very good, I would say. But then the 11 Pro came and made it super pro. So this was like the last basic setup where it was just kind of like a phone setup, and then they started doing more of a pro setup with the 11 Pro, the 12 Pro, and now the 13 Pro. So on this phone, they did at least bring the aspect ratios after a few updates. So now it kind of still feels a little bit more modern. You can't go that far on the zoom, up to 10x, which can be enough for some. But, you know, for me, it's not enough. I like to have like 30x or 50x. But I like to zoom a lot. But so this is the opposite setup from like an iPhone 12 or an iPhone 13, where it has, when you punch in, it goes actually into the 0.5 wide angle. And you're going to be missing that here for the iPhone XS. No wide angle, but you can just simply step back and get a much wider shot on the phone. Now also with this phone, you do have the ability to record in 4K at 60. So this has been having the 4K 60 for quite some time on the iPhone. But on the front, this is where it kind of struggles a little bit. No 4K 60 on the front camera. This is where they really jumped up when they brought out the 11 Pro. They really went to town on the front facing camera, but that was a while ago. So now we're looking for more front facing camera updates. On the whole though, this does do 1080 60 on the front when it comes to video. It should be enough for some people, but considering what you're paying for it, you shouldn't be expecting like 5 different cameras at this point. Overall though, I would say the actual result of the camera still can impress, I think, for sure. You know, Apple's been doing great cameras for a while. This one had the smart HDR like the iPhone XR. So essentially it just kind of got the color and all that kind of accurate and correct without you having to do anything like that. Got the dynamic range correct. So the photos on here can still come out very stunning, especially if you're taking them outdoors. You got some clouds, stuff like that, sunlight, things like that. It does pretty good overall, I would say. I'm pretty pleased with this camera still. I still wouldn't have no issues taking this out even right now in 2022. What about the phone call quality? Well, this is an area where I would see some, I'm not gonna say drop calls because I live in a major city, but I was seeing dropped bars. The bars would drop on this phone all the time. And believe it or not, it seems like it's nothing until you actually have like a 13 Pro or even an iPhone 12 Pro, which brought back the Qualcomm modems. Even when I'm on 4G for the iPhone 13 Pro, it's still stronger than the 4G here. So I do get better mobile reception and call quality strength when it comes to the signal. But in terms of actually how it sounds okay. You know, we have a pretty decently loud speaker, so that's going to be not a problem. And yeah, so phone call quality, not your best here for the iPhone XS. Do keep that in mind if you are considering picking up a used iPhone. I think you're getting so many premium options at such a low price here. The smartphone market has matured to the sense that, you know, you basically can't get a terrible phone. And if you really want iOS, but you're not able to pick up something that costs several $100s more right now, this can be a solid option. Do keep in mind though, that this is gonna only have maybe 2 years left of software updates, but 2 years is a pretty decent amount of time. So do keep that in mind as well. You're getting a premium body. You're getting solid cameras, not the best on the market, but solid cameras here. You're getting an OLED display, which is still top of the line. OLED displays are still what is considered a premium display on smartphones. You're getting a smooth iOS experience on a 5.8 inch size, which is not 6.1, but for some it could be more comfortable. It's kind of like a sweet spot for some people. Overall, this is a good backup phone for some people. This is also a good phone to pass down to somebody who's not able to buy, you know, a premium high-priced phone right now. This phone right here is also for that person who has a strict budget. They're looking to get something, you know, paid for. They don't want to be paying on a payment plan. They want to find something used and they want to use it for a couple years and they want it to feel premium. They're coming from something like a 6, a 6S, a 7, something like that, maybe even 8 model phone or even an older SE like a 2016 SE. You might be coming from that. This can feel like a really premium change from those devices without spending $500 for a current iPhone 11, even $600 for an iPhone 12, even maybe $800 for an iPhone 13. I think of this like buying a used older luxury car that's not super old, like maybe like 3 to 4 years old luxury car. It's still super premium. You're still getting a lot of the latest features that you would get on current model years, but you're not going to pay anywhere near the price. That's kind of what this type of phone represents, along with things like the iPhone 11 Pro, like I covered in my last video, and even things like the iPhone 10. So this is what you can kind of expect from something like this. If you found a video helpful, entertaining, informing, do me a favor, click the like button for me, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts. Do you have an iPhone 10s? Let me know down below in the comment section. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.